This June 2026, I captured the most jaw-dropping and crystal-clear footage of a Bigfoot ever recorded deep in the Appalachian Mountains. But what came next was the true horror I can't escape. It's the final 3 seconds of my drone footage that shows what the real monster in this story is capable of, and any Bigfoot skeptics can't deny it any longer. The thermal feed on the handheld screen glows green and white in the pre-dawn shadow of the hemlock, and I am 400 meters from whatever is gathered beneath that rock overhang, and my hands are not shaking yet. That matters. In 12 years of field tracking, 4 of them in uniform, 8 of them hauling gear through roadless backcountry for a nonprofit that most people have never heard of, I have learned that steady hands mean a good shot, and right now, the drone needs a good shot. Then the thermal resolves, and I stop whispering numbers entirely, because there are 3 heat signatures beneath that overhang, and none of them are bears. Bears read differently, rounder, lower to the ground, the heat signature spreading from a wide torso close to the earth. These signatures are tall, vertical. The largest one stands well over 6 feet in the thermal image, and the shoulders are enormous, broad in a way that reads almost architectural on the green-white feed. And it is moving with a rolling, weight-forward gait that I have studied in every piece of footage ever gathered by my organization and a dozen others. 2 are massive. The larger one easily 7 feet from crown to sole by my estimation. Shoulders like the hood of a truck, knuckle-walking in slow, deliberate arcs through the leaf litter. The smaller of the 2 adults grooms the back of the larger one with fingers that move with unmistakable, methodical precision. Between them, pressed against the rock face, a juvenile shifts and fidgets, leaning into the adult female's side and then pushing away again. That restless motion of something young and full of energy that has been made to stay still. I zoom the optical feed. The image is sharper than anything I have ever captured, sharper than anything my organization has ever captured, sharper than almost anything in the public record. Bigfoot in triplicate, going about the unhurried business of being alive on a June morning in the Appalachians. The larger male Bigfoot drops to all 4s and moves to a pine tree maybe 20 feet from the overhang and drags its back against the bark in long, slow strokes, head lolling back with what I can only interpret as satisfaction. And I am whispering into the chest camera that I found them. I found them. I cannot believe I found them, and my voice is cracking slightly on the last word. And then the male Bigfoot stops. If the male stopped because he heard the drone, then what else has he heard? Like the whisper of a human heart 400 yards away. Every muscle in that enormous body goes rigid all at once, the way a deer freezes, except that a deer looks uncertain, and Bigfoot does not look uncertain at all. The head turns, not randomly, not scanning the canopy, but directly, precisely, toward the drone's infrared laser dot, as though Bigfoot has been aware of the laser for some time and has simply decided now is the moment to acknowledge it. Bigfoot stares. It does not blink. It does not move for 3 full seconds. And then it bends, picks up a fist-sized rock from the ground, and I punch the ascent command. The drone is too slow. The rock hits the body with a crack that comes through the controller's tiny speaker, and the feed spirals. Leaves, sky, a strobing smear of forest canopy, then the hard white flash of impact, and black. Time code 418. My own voice comes through the chest camera audio, 2 words back to back. Oh God. Oh no. I am already moving before the controller screen goes dark. I grab the pack, leave the controller in the leaves, and start running downhill, because downhill is the only direction that makes sense when something that large is upslope and knows exactly where you are. The chest camera swings and jolts against my sternum. I say it out loud, to no one, to myself, to whatever part of me still needs to narrate in order to function. The Bigfoot know where I am, and I have to run. If Bigfoot was aware of the laser dot for some time before reacting, does that mean it was already tracking the drone's operator and simply waiting? The hardwood forest on this slope is old, growth in patches, root systems heaving the ground into a maze of humps and depressions, the canopy so thick that the morning light hits the floor in scattered coins. I have run terrain like this before. I have never run it like this, heart already pounding past 150, one eye tracking the ground for ankle breakers, the other checking the upper slope for motion. At roughly 5.5 minutes in, I hear it, not footsteps, not the heavy crash I expected, but something worse. The quiet. Saplings going silent as something moves through them. A gap in the ambient bird song. Then, 20 meters upslope, a 4-inch sapling snaps clean in half at chest height. No wind. Bigfoot is not running. Bigfoot is bounding, long ground-eating strides, and it is barely making noise doing it. I hit the screen without warning. The slope transitions from root-laced soil to loose shale that shifts underfoot like a living thing, and my boots go out from under me before I can check my speed. I fall hard onto my left side and slide. The chest camera records maybe 20 feet of gray blur. Rock edge catching my elbow and stripping it raw through the sleeve before I fetch up against a boulder at the bottom of the screen with enough force to rattle my back teeth. I lie there for exactly 1 second. Then I look up. Bigfoot stands at the top of the scree field, motionless against the skyline, arms hanging, chest barely moving. Not winded, not even close to winded. Bigfoot watches me with an expression I cannot name. Not hunger, not rage, something more patient and more terrible than either. Then Bigfoot bends and picks up a rock the size of a basketball, and with what I can only describe as a casual, underhand bowl, sends it down the slope. The rock bounces once, twice, each impact multiplying its speed, and I throw myself sideways off the boulder just as it hits. The impact blasts chips of shale into my back and neck. I do not wait to see if Bigfoot reaches for another one. I drop into the ravine below the scree in a controlled slide that is barely controlled at all, landing feet first in a seasonal creek that drives the cold straight through my boots. The shock is immediate and total, the kind of cold that makes your lungs lock for a half second before they remember their job. I start wading downstream. The ravine walls close in around me, limestone and moss dripping with seep water. The creek may be 8 inches deep over flat rock. I am hoping the water kills my scent trail. I am hoping that enough. Then behind me, upstream, there is a splash, not a small splash. Bigfoot has entered the creek. If water washes away scent, but Bigfoot can still see you waiting, how far can you run on cold-numbed feet before the splash becomes a grab? I do not look back. I can hear it, the rhythm of the wading, unhurried, thigh-deep by the sound of the displacement, closing at a pace that is slower than my run but faster than my wade. The ravine walls offer no purchase, no ledges, no exits. I run the water as fast as I can manage over slick submerged rock, arms out for balance, the cold working up from my feet into my calves and doing the kind of damage to muscle response that I know from cold weather training will start to matter if I am in this water for more than another few minutes. At 11 minutes, I see it, a fallen tree bridging the creek wall to wall, mossy and half-rotted, the trunk maybe 14 inches in diameter. I hit it at a crawl, scrambling up and forward on hands and knees, the chest camera recording the green-black surface of the wood inches from my face, the soft give of punky heartwood under my palms. I am halfway across when the log rolls. My left hand catches a branch stub. My body swings out over the water, feet dangling, the creek 3 feet below me. I look back. Bigfoot is 20 feet behind me in the creek, wading steady, water churning white around its thighs, eyes on me with that same unreadable patience. I pull. The shoulder that took the fall on the scree screams at me. I pull anyway, get a knee over the branch, drag myself horizontal, and run the last section of log on instinct alone, jumping to the far bank without breaking stride. The rhododendron thicket I crash into at 12 minutes is so dense the stems interlock at chest height. I have to drop low, almost to hands and knees, forcing myself through gaps in the tangle. Behind me, I hear Bigfoot hit the edge of the thicket and slow. The bulk that makes Bigfoot so fast in open terrain is a liability in vegetation this tight. I use every inch of that advantage. How long can you count on a thicket to slow something that can snap a 4-inch sapling at chest height? I know I am in trouble the moment the rhododendron thins. The chest camera picks up the clearing at 12:30. Rusted cables coiled in the leaf litter, a collapsed winch frame, a pile of rotting timber at the edge of a small opening that has the particular silence of a place left alone for 50 years. Old logging operation, probably 1970s by the hardware. The cables are the thick braided steel they used for skidder lines, and the winch frame is cast iron, built to last. Everything built to last has outlasted the people who used it. I take 3 steps into the clearing, heading for a stack of railroad ties against the far tree line, and the ground sounds wrong under my right boot. Not hollow, wrong. A muffled softness under one step that the step after doesn't have. The sound of soil that has bridged itself over empty space and is waiting for a reason to stop. At 13:15, Bigfoot crashes through the rhododendron behind me. I sprint. The snap I hear is not a branch. The ground opens up. 2 seconds of free fall. The chest camera records dirt walls, root ends jutting from the sides like broken fingers, a circle of daylight shrinking above me into a pale coin. And then I hit mud and standing water, maybe 4 inches of it, with a force that buckles my knees and sends me onto my side in a full body slam against the pit floor. Prospect pit, hand dug, maybe 10 feet deep. Old-time miners dig, the walls crumbly and steep, no ladder, no footholds that will hold body weight. I try the nearest wall immediately, clawing at it with both hands, and a sheet of dirt the size of a welcome mat peels away and drops on me. I try the opposite side. Same result. I work my way around the entire perimeter, testing every section, and every section gives me the same answer. The soil is too saturated, too old, too eager to fall. At 14 minutes, Bigfoot appears at the rim of the pit above me. Bigfoot peers down with that enormous dark face, head tilted slightly, and then, with a deliberateness that is somehow more frightening than anger, sits down on the edge, legs dangling over the drop, and waits. It settles its forearms on its knees like a man sitting on a dock. It is not in a hurry. It knows exactly what I know. I am not getting out of this hole on my own. I try both walls again over the next several minutes, systematically, testing every square foot for anything that will hold. Every attempt fails. The walls are old and saturated, and they simply give way. My left hand closes on something metal in the muck at the base of the wall. A rusted hand drill, abandoned here by whatever miner dug this pit and never came back. Maybe 2.5 feet long, not enough to reach the surface. I hold it anyway. Bigfoot watches me with what I can only describe as mild interest, occasionally tilting its head as I move around the pit floor. What use is a 2-foot rusted hand drill against a creature that can throw a basketball-sized rock with underhand casualness? Then at 18:30, the juvenile Bigfoot arrives. 2 smaller sets of feet appear at the rim beside the larger ones, and the juvenile makes a sound. A rapid clicking, 3 pulses, then a 4th. And the male Bigfoot responds with a sound from low in its chest, a rumble that I feel in the mud through my boots more than I hear with my ears. They are communicating about me. About what to do with me? I am 10 feet underground, being deliberated over by a Bigfoot family, and the thought hits me with a clarity that bypasses panic entirely. I need to make myself impossible to wait out. The emergency space blanket comes out of the pack in a crinkle of metallicized mylar that sounds obscenely loud in the confined space. I tie one end to the rusted hand drill with my bootlace, making a flag, and then I snap the blanket open and wave it. The reflection hits the pit walls, bounces off the mud, and throws fractured silver light upward. Bigfoot flinches back from the rim, not far, but back. The juvenile Bigfoot makes a hissing sound. I wave harder, screaming, not words, just raw volume sent straight up out of my chest, every decibel I have. I throw my water bottle at the face I can see at the rim. It misses. It doesn't matter. The distraction is enough. Bigfoot stands up from its crouch, taking a step back from the edge, uncertain for the first time since the drone fell. The root is on the far side of the pit, thick as my forearm, ancient, running from deep in the wall up through the soil and into the surface. I cannot believe I missed it. I scramble across, grab it with both hands, and pull my full body weight on it. It holds. I climb, hand over hand, the chest camera tilted upward, showing nothing but mud and my own straining forearms, and I roll over the rim onto open ground, just as Bigfoot turns back toward the pit's edge. If you're out of the pit, but Bigfoot is turning back toward the edge, does it already know you're behind it, or is it checking to see where you went? I am out. I am on my feet, and Bigfoot is standing 10 meters away, directly between me and every direction that leads toward the trail. I go upslope, not because it makes tactical sense. Upslope is harder. My legs are already burning. The ankle that took the rough landing in the ravine is sending warnings up my shin with every step. But because the juvenile Bigfoot are somewhere in the rhododendron, and I am not walking back into that. I sprint for the ridgeline with everything I have left, and behind me, Bigfoot roars. Not the chase cry I heard on the scree slope. This is something more structured, something directed, a sound with information in it, and the juvenile Bigfoot answer it from 2 different positions, left and right, flanking, using the terrain between the trees to cut off the angles. Bigfoot is coordinating. Bigfoot is running a drive, the way wolves run drives, the way predators that hunt in families run drives, and the juvenile Bigfoot are the wings, and the male Bigfoot is the hammer, and I am the thing being pushed toward whatever the hammer is aimed at. The ridge line breaks into open air at 21 minutes, the forest thinning as the soil thins over bare rock, wind coming in hard from the west, and I see the fire tower about 300 meters ahead, a rusted steel lattice structure, 4 legs splayed wide at the base, a cab the size of a garden shed perched 60 feet above the ridge. 1950s Forest Service construction. I have seen these all over Appalachia, all of them decommissioned, most of them deteriorating. Right now, it is the only vertical structure in my line of sight, and vertical is the only advantage I have left against something faster than me on flat ground. I reach the base at 22:15. The wooden stairs are nailed to one leg of the lattice, several boards missing or collapsed, the railing a suggestion rather than a reality. I climb fast, testing each step with the ball of my foot before committing, skipping 2 boards that flex dangerously under the first ounce of weight, the chest camera bouncing with each step and recording the rusted railing, the wind that has picked up along the ridge, the forest floor falling away below me at a rate that I find unexpectedly comforting. Distance from the ground is distance from Bigfoot. At the cab, I hit the steel door with my shoulder, and it opens with a shriek of rust on rust, every crow and jay on the ridge erupting into alarm calls at the sound. I get inside and slam the latch down. A simple drop bar mechanism, old but still functional. Bigfoot reaches the base of the tower at 24 minutes. I watch through a shattered window frame as Bigfoot stops at the base, looks up at me with those dark eyes, and then, without hesitation, without testing the stairs, puts both hands on the steel lattice legs and shakes. The tower moves, not a tremble, a full sickening sway, maybe 8 inches of arc at the top, and I grab the nearest support beam hard enough to feel the rust cut my palm through my glove. The cab groans. A piece of old window glass drops from the frame, and I watch it fall 60 feet and shatter on the rock below. If 8 inches of sway at 60 feet is terrifying, what happens when Bigfoot finds the resonant frequency of the tower and the sway becomes 2 feet? Bigfoot shakes the tower again. Then Bigfoot begins to climb, not the stairs. The outside of the lattice, hand over hand, Bigfoot's weight pulling the steel into new shapes as it ascends, the whole structure groaning with each grip change. It moves with a terrible efficiency, no wasted motion, no uncertainty, angled steel that would tax a trained climber, barely slowing Bigfoot at all. I can feel it in the floor of the cab, each handhold transmitting vibration upward through 60 feet of steel. I go to the secondary door on the opposite side of the cab. It is rusted shut. I kick it once, twice, 3 times, and on the 3rd kick it swings open on seized hinges with a sound like a rifle shot. Below me, 60 feet of open air to the forest floor. To my left, running diagonally from a bracket on the cab wall down to a pulley system at the base of the tower leg, an old supply cable, frayed, galvanized steel, stiff with age. I grab it with both hands and pull. It moves. I wrap it twice around my belt hardware and once around my right thigh over the pants, tighten my grip, and step off the edge. The descent is not a controlled rappel. It is a controlled fall that is barely controlling itself. The cable singing under tension, the pulleys below jumping and squealing, my gloves heating from friction in the first 2 seconds. I slam into the lattice once with my shoulder and once with my hip, the second impact spinning me outward, so I hit the next section of frame face first with my forearm. At roughly 15 feet above the ground, the cable reaches the limit of the pulley's travel and jerks hard, and I swing in and land feet first on a narrow maintenance catwalk, both ankles taking the impact, and grab the railing before my momentum carries me over the edge. The cable goes slack above me, fraying from the sudden load, and then it snaps. I drop to the railing with both arms, legs dangling, and then I drop the remaining distance to the ground and roll. I look up. Bigfoot is in the cab, looking down through the gap where the secondary door was. For 1 second, we are looking directly at each other through 60 feet of September-colored air. Then, I am in the brush, moving, and above me I hear the crash and shriek of twisted metal as Bigfoot drops from the cab to the catwalk and the catwalk gives way under the weight. I am bleeding from a cut above my left eye. I do not know when it happened, and I am disoriented, moving through the forest on terrain that has stopped being familiar. At 29 minutes, I recognize a double-trunk oak, the kind of landmark I logged during the pre-mission survey, and my stomach drops. I am circling back toward the drone crash site. Wrong direction, and the juvenile Bigfoot appeared on both sides of me, through the trees, moving parallel, neither of them closing, but both of them nudging my path, steering me. They are not attacking, they are herding. If the juveniles are herding you back toward the drone crash site, does the male Bigfoot already be waiting there? Or is the drone itself the thing they want you to lead them to? The gorge takes me by surprise, even though I am looking for hazards. The forest simply ends at a cliff edge, and I drop 4 feet to a stream bed, and the walls are suddenly 50 feet above me and 15 feet apart. Limestone that has been cutting itself deeper into this ridge for 10,000 years. The walls so close that I can touch both of them simultaneously if I stretch my arms. The floor is a strip of shallow water over flat rock, the stream running clear and cold, the walls above me dripping with seep water. I can hear Bigfoot entering the gorge behind me almost immediately, the shoulders almost brushing both walls simultaneously, that same deliberate pace, moving through the confined space the way it moved through the open forest, like it owns whatever it is currently inside. The juvenile Bigfoot are above me on the gorge rim, clicking to each other and to the male Bigfoot below. I am scanning the walls as I run. At 32.5 minutes, I see it. A wedge of limestone, maybe 2 feet across, jammed tight between 2 sections of the gorge wall at a height of about 25 feet, holding back what looks like a talus slope of accumulated debris behind it. Decades of rockfall that has been waiting for the keystone to give way. The ledge below it is reachable. Barely. I climb fast and badly, hands and boots on limestone that cuts both. The chest camera records the rock face 6 inches from my face and my own ragged breathing. I reach the ledge and get my hands on the keystone and push. It doesn't move. I brace my back against the gorge wall and push with both legs. Nothing. Bigfoot is 40 feet below me and climbing the gorge wall with an ease that makes my chest ache to watch. I pull the flare, gun. 1 shot, 1 flare. The barrel jammed into the gap behind the keystone as deep as it will go. I fire. The confined space turns the detonation into something enormous. Light and pressure ricocheting off limestone walls, the gorge acting as an amplifier for the concussion. My ears ring. White smoke. And the keystone shifts. If the keystone shifts, but doesn't fall, and Bigfoot is still climbing, did you just announce your position with a muzzle flash visible from orbit for nothing? I pull myself sideways and press into a crevice in the wall as the slope gives way above me. The sound is extraordinary. Not a crash, but a continuous rolling thunder. Limestone on limestone. 50 years of accumulated talus cascading down the gorge in a wave that raises a curtain of white dust so thick the chest camera goes opaque for several seconds before the air begins to clear. When it does, the gorge is blocked floor to ceiling in fresh debris for a span of maybe 30 feet, and on the far side of that debris, Bigfoot is buried to the waist and roaring. Not pain exactly, but a fury so massive it shakes the dust from the gorge walls. The juvenile Bigfoot are on my side of the blockage, small enough to pick their way up and over. I can hear them behind me as I climb the debris pile, cutting my hands open on fresh, broken rock and drop to the other side. Bigfoot is already pulling itself free from the debris as I exit the gorge into open forest. It is moving slower, not injured, I think, but slowed. 2 minutes maybe less. I start running, and my left ankle fails completely, sending me down onto my hands and one knee in the leaf litter. And for a moment, I lie on the ground with my face in last autumn's leaves and listen to the gorge behind me and breathe. I drag myself to the hollow log at 38 minutes. I know exactly where I am now. The drone wreck is nearby, and the hollow log has been here since before I arrived. A red oak trunk, maybe 4 feet in diameter, collapsed and tunneled out by decades of decay. The heartwood soft as wet cardboard at the entrance where I push my pack in ahead of me. I find the drone in the ferns a few yards out. The body cracked, one rotor arm bent back on itself, and I pull the memory card from the housing before I crawl inside the log. The chest camera records the dim interior, the smell of wet rot and fungus, and the faint sweetness of decomposing tannin. My own blood on the bark where I drag myself forward with both arms. I wedge against the interior curve and go completely still. If a hollow log hides you from sight but not from scent, and Bigfoot has already found you once by tracking your laser, how long before that patient, unreadable patience runs out and the log becomes a coffin? From 40 minutes onward, I wait in the dark and rot. The forest sounds come back in layers. First, the insects, the continuous low-register hum of a June morning that means nothing is disturbing the canopy. Then a woodpecker somewhere above, working a dead snag in short, measured bursts. Then a chickadee in the understory, close enough that I could hear it if I breathed wrong. The sounds of a forest that has decided the emergency is over. I watch the light through the bark gaps and I wait. Bigfoot emerges from the direction of the gorge. I hear it before I see it. Not the full stride I heard on the ridge, not the bounding gait from the scree slope, but a slightly uneven cadence that carries the faintest asymmetry, one footfall marginally heavier than the other. The rockfall exacted something after all. Then the feet come into the gap in the bark, enormous, calloused, the toes spreading with each placement on the ground, each toe as wide as two of mine, the skin on the sole thickened to something that looks almost like the bark I am hiding inside. Bigfoot tracks slowly across my field of view, and then Bigfoot stops, sniffs. The sound of that inhalation is deep and deliberate, not a casual check, but a full assessment, the kind of scenting behavior I have documented in field notes and never experienced from this end. I press my hand over my mouth and nose and breathe through my fingers in the smallest possible volumes, watching through the gap as those feet stand motionless inches from the opening of the log. I can smell Bigfoot, wet fur and old blood, and something underneath that is almost vegetable, pine resin and leaf rot, and the deeper smell of something that has always been part of this forest and was part of it long before anything calling itself human walked through here. The feet do not move. Then from deep in Bigfoot's chest comes a sound that is not a growl and not a vocalization I have any word for. A low, cycling hum, almost subsonic, felt more than heard. The juvenile Bigfoot answered from somewhere in the ferns to my north. The hum again. Another answer. The feet shift once. I stop breathing entirely, and then they turn and begin to move away. The cadence fades. The forest fills the space with ordinary sound. I lie in the hollow log for another full minute before I trust it, and then I let my breath out against the bark, and the chest camera records my face, streaked and filthy, and the words I mouth in the silence of the log without quite making them into sound. I crawl out. I sit in the ferns beside the ruined drone with the memory card in my hand, and the morning light coming through the canopy at the low angle it makes in June when the day is just deciding what it's going to be. Later, when I reviewed the stabilized and enhanced reconstruction of the drone's final 3 seconds, the footage I nearly died for twice over, what I see in that last frame is not what I expected to see. The male Bigfoot, looking up at the falling drone, is not snarling. Its left arm is curved around the juvenile Bigfoot, pulling that smaller body in against its side. Its right hand is raised not for another throw, but palm outward, angled to block the camera light from the juvenile's face, protecting it from the brightness. That is the last frame. That is the clearest footage of Bigfoot in the Appalachian Mountains, June 2026. They are not monsters. They are a family moving through old mountains on a Tuesday morning in June, and I was the thing that came out of the sky uninvited, and Bigfoot handled the situation with a restraint that, if I'm being honest with myself, I am not certain I would have managed in return.